While working on my last two videos, I ran across something interesting. A quirk in the baseball matrix, if you will. Digging around Daniel Egan, pitcher for the Diamondbacks, and formerly of the Presbyterian College Blue Hose, Hose, like water hose. Mine's out of the gutter, people. I saw a bit of information that intrigued me. Presbyterian College has not had a player reach the majors since shortly after World War II. So I thought, I wonder who that player was. Down the rabbit hole I went, and I loved every minute of it. I thought it would be cool to ask one of his former teammates, 1952 AL MVP Bobby Shantz, who, at 100 years old, still signs cards through the mail. One simple question. That question, do you recall any memories you have of Lou Brissie? Mr. Shantz was very kind to reply to my index card message, stating Lou Brissie was a pretty good pitcher. Coming from a player of Shantz's character and talent, Brissie would have taken that compliment proudly. He certainly was a pretty good pitcher, but Lou was so much more than that. Where do we start? Well, how about Boston, opening day, doubleheader, Patriots Day, April 19th, 1948. The Athletics of Philadelphia versus the Red Sox of, well, clearly Boston. Lou Brissie walks into the stadium, arriving early to the ballpark. Manager owner Connie Mack had told him to rest up at the hotel until the end of the first game. Lou hadn't listened, letting excitement and a love of the game take over. Brissie was making only his second career major league start. His debut had been against Berra and DiMaggio, Joe, not Dom or Vince, at Yankee Stadium to end the 1947 season for the Athletics. A 5-3 loss to Bill White. But Brissie had gone 7, giving up 5 runs and striking out 4 in that loss. I know, the rabbit hole. I got it. Back to our story. It was a second inning of Game 1 in Boston. Brissie was pitching Game 2, and Lou was contemplating strategy, getting himself ready, and taking in the whole Fenway Park experience as he walked to the visitors' clubhouse. He couldn't see the game on his walk in, but he could sure hear the crowd. A huge uproar came rolling through the stadium, shaking the stands. He thought to himself, well, something's going on up there. Then a moment later, as he arrived at the clubhouse, another loud boom from the crowd. Lou introduced himself to the man working Fenway's visitors' clubhouse as the building shook around them. Then, a moment after that, a third booming roar rattled every wall inside that room. A young attendant came running down the ramp, telling the locker room attendee that Stan Spence, Vern Stevens, and Bobby Doerr had just hit back-to-back solo home runs off of Phil Marshallton, putting the Red Sox ahead 3-0. At that moment, Lou thought to himself, well, you asked for it. Looks like you're going to get it. On this day, though, it would be Ted Williams and the Boston Red Sox who would get it. And they'd see what kind of an athlete, man, and hero Brissie really was. Leland Victor Lou Brissie was born in Anderson, South Carolina on June 5th, 1924. Brissie grew up in Greenville and Ware Shoals, South Carolina, where his father, Leland Sr., had joined, for the early years at least, the Lucky Teeter and his Hell Driver stunt show that would perform all across the U.S. But by 1938, the senior Brissie had found work at Rigel Textile Corporation in Ware Shoals. The mill had a baseball team. The team played all around the state. Young Lou joined the Textiles B team at the age of 14. Textile League baseball ran in his blood, as 5 of his uncles played for different mills and corporations throughout South Carolina. In fact, at one point, all 5 of his uncles shared the field, for a time, on the same team. Textile baseball back then was usually made up of full-time employees or their immediate families. Most companies would attempt to build the best baseball team by giving jobs to ex-pro players, much like that famous Simpsons episode that we all know and love. This is future editing me. I did not happen to know this yesterday when I was recording this video, but I saw it today on Facebook that yesterday was the 34th anniversary of that famous Homer at the Bat episode of The Simpsons. So congratulations to 34 years. Back to the video. Brissie said that teams back then were mostly ex-professional old-timers, and they didn't tell anything that would help you because they didn't want any competition. Shortly after joining and starring for the B squad, Lou was promoted to the A team and was playing to decent-sized crowds every game. As Brissie recalled, our heroes were the guys that played in those textile leagues. Neither Lou himself, although his dad had, nor most of the players and fans had ever seen a major league game, or even heard a major league broadcast. For them, this was baseball, and they loved it. By 16, Brissie had grown into a 6'4.5", got to throw that half in there, left-handed pitcher and first baseman, and was already being scouted by the big league ball clubs. The Dodgers came calling, throwing a large, for the time anyway, contract bonus at him of $25,000. It's funny how times don't change, huh? However, Brissie's father was a huge Connie Mack fan and a fan of the reputation that Mack had for working with players who first wanted to attend college before starting their big league careers. So Mack and Leland Sr. worked out a deal to send Brissie to Presbyterian College in South Carolina for 3 years. If you know, you know. After which time he was to report to Philadelphia. Young Lou pitched the entire 1942 season for Presbyterian and looked well on his way to polishing his skills before he hit the big time. But the world had different plans for him, as it did for many in 1942. Brissie attempted to enlist twice, but he was too young, and his parents wouldn't sign a release. But in December 1942, almost a year to the day of the Pearl Harbor attack, he finally was able to enlist. He did get a few more games in on the mound in 1943, before he reported to the Army in April. After arriving to Camp Croft, Brissie showed up to an open call for anyone on the base that wanted to join the battalion's baseball team. During their first team meeting, the colonel in charge of baseball said, "We're going to have a great ball club because there's so many of you out here who love baseball, and we're truly dedicated to it." The colonel then said, "We're going to start practice tomorrow, but there's something you should know. I'm here to train you as a soldier, and that's what I'm going to do. So any baseball you play will be after you finish your soldiering and your duties. And there will not be any extra time off or any late reporting. You'll do what every other trainee does, and you'll play baseball because you love it." The next day was the first team practice, and they had lost 3/4 of the guys who loved baseball. In later years, Brissie would jokingly say, apparently, they didn't love baseball as much as the colonel thought they did. First Lieutenant Quintero, the manager of the battalion team, moved Brissie to the mound permanently. And with Lou on the hill, that team would win the camp championship. I mean, they also had the likes of Jerry Scala from the White Sox, Howard Chris from the Cardinals, Ray Flanagan from the Orioles filling out the roster, so maybe that helped a little bit too. At the end of that season, the Camp Croft All-Star team played the local textile mill All-Star team. The price of admission was a war bond. The announcer for that game was another soldier, enlisted at Camp Croft at the time, Mel Allen. Yes, that Mel Allen of Yankee fame. In that small community, 7,500 people turned out to see the two powerhouse teams play and also help the war effort. In late spring 1944, Lou had one of his best games against the Greenville Army Air Base, striking out 19. But his most talked about game that year was when he was on day leave and pitched a semi-pro game for Monaghan Textile against Easley Mill and struck out 22. Monaghan still somehow managed to lose that game 2-0 though. Towards the end of 1944, after receiving training with a combat course group in village fighting, quick fire courses, and infiltration, Brissie was shipped off to Italy to join the 88th Infantry Division, where he saw heavy combat that November. 3 years after Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1944, G Company, Brissie's company, came under artillery fire in the mountains north of Florence around 10 in the morning. 8 enlisted men and 3 of the 4 officers in his company were killed. A 170 millimeter round landed 3 feet from Brissie. Lou began crawling towards a creek bed for cover, and the last thing the corporal remembered before passing out was lying in that creek bed, looking at one leg severely damaged and the other leg he thought missing. Doctors found him hours later, unconscious and badly in need of an amputation. Turns out the leg was not actually missing. It was still attached, but barely. On the transport back, the Jeep he was in had an accident, and young Lou was bounced off the Jeep and into an embankment, injuring his head and wounding his shoulder. Corporal Brissie would spend the next 3 days begging doctors at different hospitals to not amputate his leg. He was a ball player. He was going to play again. He was keeping his leg, even if it cost him his life. A surgeon in Naples, Dr. Brubaker, finally listened, and over the course of several months, Lou had many surgeries, a bunch of blood transfusions, and countless hours of rehabilitation before returning home in April of 1945. The entire time, the corporal wrote letters and remained in contact with Connie Mack. The legendary owner-manager would write, "Your duty now was to try to get well, and whenever you felt you was ready to play, I will see you get the opportunity." Personally, I don't think Mack ever expected to have to keep that promise. But for Brissie, it meant everything. It was a tremendous motivator. For 2 years, the corporal endured 23 surgeries, 40 blood transfusions, a metal plate in his leg, and several wires to hold that leg together so he could keep his dream alive to play baseball. Over the course of his surgeries, Brissie also became the first soldier in the Mediterranean theater to be given penicillin for an infection. Brissie's father had always told him, "Those who say they can't never will." So the corporal never thought he couldn't play baseball again. He was just unsure how someone with a leg like that could get back to the mound. Brissie kept rehabbing, and although on crutches and freshly off a new surgery, was able to persuade Connie Mack in July of 1945 to come take a look at him pitch. Crutches under his arm, Brissie struggled, throwing a few pitches for Mack to see. Mack thought to himself, "Poor boy, he'll never be able to pitch again." But after that, Brissie still kept in touch with the Philadelphia legend, and Mack admired him for his persistence and heart, saying, "If determination can do it, I know he'll make good." Lou never gave up, worked to get off those crutches, and found his feel back on the mound. He kept writing Mack, hoping for another shot to prove himself. He was going to hold Mack to his word and prove to both the Phillies manager and himself that he could still get the job done and do it well. It worked. Connie Mack did make good on that promise, even if he thought he'd never have to, and re-signed Brissie on December 15th, 1946, just a few days after the 5th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. Wearing a hard metal protective brace, Brissie reported to Savannah, the Athletics Class A South Atlantic team. Savannah's catcher would say, although there was much respect among the league for the two-time Purple Heart and Bronze Star recipient, there was no quarter given, with hitters often laying down bunts, probing for weaknesses, and trying to exploit his mobility and injury. Although they were aware of his sacrifice and his service, his opponents still hadn't fully understood just who they were dealing with. For all the tests, all the trials, all the attempted exploitations, Brissie got the last laugh, starting off the season going 13-0, ending the year leading the league in wins, going 23-5, striking out 278 batters, 107 more than the next closest pitcher in the league, a 1.91 ERA, a full 62 points higher than the next guy, all while leading his team to the league championship. Connie Mack had seen enough and called Brissie up to the Athletics for the final game of 1947 against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. See what I mean? The rabbit hole. Here we are, back to where we started. Marshallton himself, a veteran of World War II, who had been shot down over Germany in 1944 and was taken as a POW, had just given up back-to-back home runs in the second, going down 3-0 in Boston. But the Athletics fought back on this Patriots Day, scoring 1 in the 5th, 2 in the 8th, and 2 in the 11th. The Red Sox would get 1 in the 11th, plating Stevens, but Williams and the Sox came up short, losing 5-4. Marshallton had gone the distance, all 11, and only gave up 7 hits. Game 2, it was Brissie's turn to take the mound. The Athletics put up 1 run in the 3rd to jump out to an early 1-0 lead. But in the bottom of that inning, Boston's Galehouse, the opposing pitcher, would drive in Mealy to tie it. The Athletics then put up 1 in the 4th before Brissie, hoping to help his own cause, came up that inning and ripped a single to drive in 2, putting the Athletics up 4-1. In the 6th, with DiMaggio, Dom, not Vince or Joe this time, on base, the legendary Ted Williams would stride to the plate. Williams let loose a blast right up the middle, a rocket that bounced off of Brissie's leg brace and knee and dropped Lou to the ground. Ted Williams would say in his memoir, "Down he goes, and everybody rushes out there, and I go over to him from first base with this awful feeling. I really hurt him. Here's this war hero pitching a great game. He sees me in the crowd, looking down at him, my face a haunt. He says, 'For Christ's sakes, Williams, pull the damn ball.'" Brissie would say that to Williams' credit, who was a war hero himself, he probably could have gone to second, but stopped at first, called time after DiMaggio scored, and walked to the mound to check on Brissie. Lou recalled he felt like he was in that creek bed in Italy all over again and didn't know what was happening or what would happen. Brissie had to be helped to his feet, but he wanted to stay in the game, so he threw a pitch to test out his leg. He fell as he planted, attempting his delivery, but still refused to leave. Just like he told those doctors before, he was a ball player. He was going to play ball. He tried again, and this time, surprisingly, the leg held. Lou waved everyone off and got set to face Stan Spence, who had started off that back-to-back homer run in the first game. Brissie got Spence and would get out of the inning with a 4-2 lead. The Corporal would never relinquish that lead, and despite the pain in his leg, he went 9 innings and struck out 7. Lou would spend the night in the hospital for observation. Still, he felt it was worth it for his first big league win. Corporal Brissie went on that season to have a 14-10 record with a 4.13 ERA and struck out 202 batters in 194 innings. 1949, Lou would make his first and only All-Star team, going 16-11 with 18 complete games and striking out 220 batters. He also hit .267 in 1949 and had his only career triple, which for a guy who at one point thought he would be missing a leg for the rest of his life, a triple is a pretty damn impressive feat. In 1951, Brissie was part of a 3-team trade that sent Minnie Minoso to Chicago and saw Lou begrudgingly leaving for Cleveland, where he would finish out his career as a relief pitcher for the Indians. GM Hank Greenberg and Brissie never saw eye to eye, and Lou would retire in 1953 to become the commissioner of the American Legion's junior baseball program, where he served for 7 or 8 years, paving the way for over 1 million boys to find their spot on a baseball diamond. Lou retired with a 44-48 record, a 4.07 ERA over 7 seasons. After his playing days, Lou served many roles in life, in industry, in education, and working with veterans organizations through the decades. He was even a scout with the Dodgers. I guess they always get their man, and the Braves. He was married twice and had 6 children. He joined Ted Williams, now his fishing buddy, and others, in trying to get Greenville native Shoeless Joe Jackson reinstated and into the Hall of Fame. Half of that has now happened, with Jackson coming off the permanent ban list, and hopefully the other half will come when the 12-person Classic Baseball Committee meets in December, probably around Pearl Harbor Day, 2027. Full circle, I'd say. Lou and his wife Diana moved to North Augusta, South Carolina, and Corporal Brissie passed away on November 25th, 2013 at a VA hospital in Augusta, Georgia, and was laid to rest in Pine View Memorial Gardens in North Augusta, South Carolina. As Paul Harvey would say, and now the rest of the story. After taking the blast off of Williams' bat and telling Williams to just pull the damn ball, Brissie would face him again later that season on May 31st, only in Philadelphia this time, at Shibe Park, and Williams would do just that, hitting a moonshot over the light tower in right field. As Williams rounded first base, Lou turned to him and yelled out, "I didn't mean pull it that damn far," making for a great story they both would tell for the rest of their lives. Like many during that time, Brissie lived the fullest life possible. He was a true hero, making a story only Hollywood could create. So much so that Columbia Pictures approached Lou about making a film of his life, struggles, and his triumphs to pitch in the majors. In typical Lou Brissie fashion, he turned them down, saying, "They wrote me, I wrote them back, and I told them I just wasn't interested. I left a lot of guys in those hospitals, and I just didn't feel right about it." That's the type of man he was. It was never about the fame. He just wanted to play baseball. I hope you guys enjoyed that story, and I hope you enjoy the series whenever we make these videos along the way. They take a little bit of research, but I have such a good time doing it. It's rabbit holes for sure, and I love it. So thank you guys for watching. If you want to watch another one of these videos, I'll post some of my Tales of Baseball Players Past videos over here for you guys to watch. I'll put the playlist up here, and you can subscribe over here. Thank you guys for watching. I definitely appreciate all the support. And anyone who knows me well enough knows that I definitely picked up a Lou Brissie card. It's a 1950 Bowman. Nice card.